Hi everyone, and welcome back to Mission 1820. In this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? If you're just joining us, we've actually been in a series called Books of the Bible, and we've been giving introductions into each book of the Bible in just 5 minutes or less. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This week we actually begin the third section of the Old Testament, which include the wisdom and political books. Those books include the book of Job, book of Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. However, with the exception of the Song of Solomon, the other books provide guidance for moral behavior as well as everyday practical living. So with that, let's get started with the book of Job. This is the 18th book of the Bible, and it's the first of the 5 poetical and wisdom books we'll be covering. Job's written in the form of a dramatic poem that deals with several age-old questions. And among those questions are why God allows the righteous to suffer. And because Job deals with a number of these universal questions, it's actually classified as one of the wisdom books. The book of Job, it helps us to understand that Satan cannot, without the express permission of God, attack or cause any harm to his children in any way, because God has power over what Satan can and cannot do to his children. Suffering in our lives, it's not always about our lifestyles or sins that we may have committed, but sometimes it's allowed in our lives by God so that he can purify, test, teach, and even strengthen our faith in him. In the book of Job, we read about a man who God allows to be directly attacked by Satan. And it's not because of anything that he's done wrong, but for God to prove that Satan is wrong in his theology. See, Satan argues that divine blessings elicit human obedience, and therefore they'll be faithful to God because they've been blessed. This means that Satan is essentially accusing God of bribing his followers for their obedience. The book of Job teaches that some sufferers are saints, that God is always worthy of the love and worship of his creation, whether or not he bestows blessings upon them, and that God always has a purpose in permitting suffering, though we may never fully understand why. Now, because we don't know who wrote the book, it's difficult to determine when it was written, but there's strong speculation that it is the oldest book in the Bible, potentially dating all the way back to around 2100 BC. But what we do know is it takes place in the land of Uz, which is in northern Arabia. Some of the key people in the book you're going to read about God and Satan. You'll read about Job, as well as his 3 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. The book can be divided into 3 sections, with the first being the dilemma of Job. This is covered in chapters 1 and 2, and this is where we read about God actually giving Satan permission to begin attacking Job and his family. The second section is the debates of Job. This is covered in chapters 3 through 37, where Job's friends are giving him their advice on how to handle God. And then the final section is the deliverance of Job. This is covered in chapters 38 through 42, in which Job finally finds rest in the realization that while God's ways are sometimes not fully understandable to us, but he can always be trusted. The book of Job reminds us that there is a cosmic conflict that's always going on behind the scenes that we usually know nothing about. Often we wonder, why does God allow things to happen in our lives? And sometimes we even question or even doubt the goodness of God without seeing his full picture. The book of Job teaches us to trust God under all circumstances, not only when we do not understand, but because we do not understand. So with that, I hope that this introduction is going to help get you started in the book of Job. So God bless, and thanks for watching.